I had a guest scheduled for this morning, and unfortunately, they had to cancel last minute. So I put a post on Facebook looking to see if anybody was willing or could step in. And fortunately, I found somebody who's willing to do that. Welcome to Small Talk.
People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hello, everyone. Well, listen, it's another cold day here in Chilliwack. I hope it's a little warmer where you are. We're going to find out how it is for our guest. She is a semi-retired financial professional and an accidental poetess. Gotta love that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet Kathy Sherban. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and listen, I want to thank you for stepping in last minute like that. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So now, before we get to you being an accidental poetess, just sounds so awesome. Tell me what you did as a financial professional.
So I worked in the stock market as a controller, vice president of finance. And then about 15 years ago, I decided to transition out of that role, and I became a corporate governance consultant downtown. So I did a lot of work writing policies and procedures and developing and designing internal controls for large financial institutions.
Now, when you said downtown, you're talking about you live in Ontario. Is that Toronto?
Yeah, sorry. So my career was downtown Toronto on Bay Street.
Right.
I've since relocated to Peterborough because no reason to be in the city anymore. I want a little bit slower of a lifestyle.
Okay, so now, sorry, I interrupted you. I just want to ask, why, and when did the change come about?
You know, the change only came about because of COVID, and as horrible as this has been for many people, I like to highlight the silver lining that has also come out of this pandemic. So the change came because I was a workaholic. I worked anywhere between 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. People would say to me, what's your hobby? I said, work is my hobby. I didn't have a hobby. And so I was terrified of retirement because I didn't know what I would do. You know, fast forward into 2020, when the pandemic hit, my contracts all dissolved. The work evaporated completely because most of the companies had to reposition themselves and their finances to get people working from home. So I was left with nothing to do. Fast forward again, a little bit overactive brain, too much time on my hands. And I just started, playing around with a little bit of writing. And before I knew it, I had written hundreds of poems. I don't even know how many. I've lost count. Okay. I started really slowly by just playing with the words and trying to find, my style and what fit for me. And what really came out of it was that the corporate governance is still there because I enjoy precision style writing. And so my poems are very, they're short. I use as few words as possible, and I like to get directly to the point. So you can take me out of the governance, but you can't take it out of me, I guess.
Okay, so could you give me or us an example of one of your poems, perhaps?
Sure, I can. How about I read a sample? So in addition to publishing a collection of poems, which would be Accidental Poetess.
Okay. Could you hold it up a little higher, please? Okay.
I also started playing around with graphics. So I designed a couple of little chapbooks, which are cute little gift books that I've done the illustrations on. Here's I'll find the fun one that I thought I would read. Nothing too deep and serious. Sorry. Should have had this a little more prepared.
No,
but
no, it's no, listen, you stepped in last minute. You take as much time as you need.
Okay, so this poem is called Who Is She? And that's the graphic, of course, that I did.
Wow.
So I'll read this poem. Who is she? She's a beauty, goddess of love, a witchy woman, all of the above. She's your daughter, maybe your mother, perhaps your wife, could be your lover. She's your sister, faithful friend, girl next door, a delightful blend. She's exquisite, a gem so rare, no ordinary woman, handle with care.
That is so cool. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now, okay, so you're a published author.
Yes.
Now, people can find your book where?
On Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Also, it's carried in Frison Press bookstore, which is my publisher.
Okay.
I also keep copies, of course, if people want to reach out directly, if they're in my neighborhood, save them, shipping.
Yeah, right, for sure. And okay, and you have a website, I think? You're not?
I'm actually just almost prepared to launch my website.
Okay.
It is currently in the last stages of development.
Okay.
Hoping to have it launched by the end of January, but it will be www.kathysherban.com.
Okay. In the meantime, people can find you on obviously on Facebook and I think LinkedIn, maybe LinkedIn. Are you on?
Yeah. So my poetry, I have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. My Facebook page is called Cat's Poetry Corner. My Facebook group is called Cat's Cradle. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Very nice. So, okay, so now you didn't know or you didn't realize that you were good at poetry, right? Until you started just sort of experimenting, right?
I had no idea.
Is that the same with graphics?
No idea. In my professional life on Bay Street, I used PowerPoint to do a lot of presentations. And so because it was the one tool I was familiar with, when I started posting my poems in different poetry groups, I started noticing people that were adding graphics got a lot more attention to their poetry. So I started playing around with the PowerPoint and ended up starting to just design some settings. And eventually I learned really how to use it to the best advantage. Is it the best tool? Probably not, but I'm a novice, so it works for me, right?
That's all that matters. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just learning, as I go. And just, I think it's really important that we all develop our own style.
Absolutely.
For everything we do. So there's no right or wrong.
I'm kind of intrigued in the transition from obviously high pressure type of positions, right, to now doing your own thing. I mean, was it hard at first, or did you transition easily?
No, it was not. It was a painful transition because when I started writing the poetry, it was a release because I felt a lot of anxiety and stress during that period of the unknown. I didn't know which direction I was going to go or what I was going to do next. So it was a bit bumpy. But I think there was one benefit, and that was because I was self-employed. I'm very good at organizing my time and carving out a time and a place so that I could do a little bit of everything to find my footing. So that was a benefit. But, I just kind of kept, I think a lot of things just fell into place. The right people, paid attention to my poems and gave me some very good advice on, publishing, on finding the right fit for myself, and kind of just pushing it forward and see where, where it could take me.
Right.
So, it was bumpy. It's still sometimes bumpy because as an independent person and as a retired person, I have to learn how to do my own marketing. I have to learn how to do everything myself. So it's trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. If the opportunity came up to go back full-time into the financial world or the corporate world, would you do it?
No. No, the edge is gone now. I don't, when you're working in that type of environment, you have to have like razor steel nerves. There's a very hard, tough edge that comes with it. And it's been almost 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like I've lost my edge. That said, my husband and I recently, sold our house in Toronto and we bought a condominium here in Peterborough. So I threw my hat into the ring because it was a new build condominium. And of course, they had to do a transfer of ownership over to create a new board of directors.
Right.
So I threw my hat into the ring, and of course, I end up as president of the board of directors. So I'm, still exercising my skill set, which is great. I still like to keep it up, but I would not take a full-time role anymore doing that because I think I'm enjoying, the more calm lifestyle.
Right. And a different kind of creativity, right?
Yeah, it's creativity, but I feel like, when I stopped being so laser focused on my job, it actually created space for me to do other things and for all of this other stuff to kind of, bubble out. So this is all very recent. It's only in the last 3 years that, in 3 years, I've published one collection myself. I've self-published the 2 chapbooks. I've had my poetry published in 2 global anthologies.
Nice.
By the Poet magazine out of the UK. And I did a feature story for Mindful magazine, which is under the umbrella of Poetry for Mental Health. So that's one, in one short period of time.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see, how things develop as I grow my skill set.
Right.
And as I actually kind of take a more targeted approach to what I want to do.
So if we go back to all of those years ago when you first got into that financial and professional type of world, what drew you there to begin with?
Okay. So again, I never have a simple answer for anything. I was raised in a really small town in Northern Ontario called Cochrane. I became a street urchin at 15.
Wow.
And I eventually landed in Toronto by the time I was 17. I knew nothing. I didn't finish grade 9. And I somehow managed to snag an interview with Nesbitt Thompson, which was one of the top 5 brokerage firms downtown. And this lady, Betty Chalk, was a very kind older woman. And she saw something in me and gave me one opportunity to work on the Brinks desk. And, I recognized immediately the gift that it was. And set out to make that my career.
Wow.
So that's how that happened.
Like, that's a whole story in itself, isn't it?
It is. Wow. It is. I actually have a manuscript that I've already started with a bunch of poems titled Bay Street to Poetry to target some of that, that time and those experiences.
Right.
Because, being a woman in the 80s and 90s, working in the stock market, is not like things are today.
Right.
It was unheard of almost for a woman to become an executive. Certainly when I became one, I was the only one in our company. And it didn't go over really well with some people.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a different time, a different place, the legislation and, you know, women's rights have come a long way, minority groups as well. But, you know, when I write about it, there's a stark comparison and reality check for people.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone down. I'm being distracted by it. Just turning it down now.
That's
Just
okay.
thinking about what a great inspiration it is for other people, you know, not necessarily in that same type of position, right? But when you lose something because of COVID,
Yes.
or whatever it is, that you can transition into something you hadn't thought of.
You know, I had often said, because I've had such, you know, I've lived the highest highs and I've had the lowest lows. You know, I was talking to my son recently and I said, you know, I was homeless twice in my life.
Twice.
Once I was 15 and once was when after I had him. I was couch surfing twice in my life.
Right.
And you know, when you look at those types of experiences, those are just mine. Everybody has a story.
Yes.
And everybody has a story. Mine is not exceptional. It just has a lot of different aspects to it. And at one point, I had always thought I would write a memoir. But when I started with these poems, what I realized was that I could still tell my story in snapshots. And they're little pieces of my life because I don't have an imagination at all. I promise that. They're little stories about my life that are very relatable to many people. So we've all had a little bit of Kathy Sherban's experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, for sure. But you know, unfortunately, a lot of people sort of get lost in their head when something happens that makes that change that they didn't ask for. So it's always good to hear, in my opinion anyway, to hear from somebody who has made it into a positive.
Right. And, you know, it's kind of like divine intervention. I was either going to find something to do or probably get divorced. But that's, you know, I would have driven my husband crazy if I didn't have something to keep me busy.
Right.
I'm not an idle person.
Yeah,
so
right. I think it's awesome. I really do. I congratulate you on all you've done. And I want you to hold up your books again so people can see them nice and clear.
Thank you.
You know, and if they want to find them, if they want to buy one, they can contact you on Facebook, Accidental Poetess by Kathy Sherban.
And then my little chapbooks right now, the first one I put out was Poetic Picassos.
Okay.
And then the second one in the series is called Brain Babble, A Poet's Noise.
Love the titles.
And coming soon, That's Amore.
Well, listen, thank you, Kathy, so much for doing this. And
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure for sure. And to the audience, thank you so much for watching. And I really hope you enjoyed hearing what Kathy accomplished by losing, because of COVID, losing her job, but she's gone on to do some great things. And it sounds like she's continuing to go that way. And look her up on Facebook. Kat's, what was the other one?
Kat's Poetry Corner.
Right.
And Kat's Cradle.
With KK.
KK.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching this show. I hope you continue to do so, and share and like and subscribe and all those wonderful things. So thanks again, and peace out, everyone.
Peace out. Thank
A sense of community till it wax a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, You're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.